Hello, welcome to Culturally Illiterate, a podcast where four longtime friends have made the unfortunate decision to watch through every theatrically released Marvel and DC movie in order. I am one of your hosts, Jake, and I believe with all of my being that a gorilla would beat a bear in a fight. Here are my co-hosts.
I'm Jason. I agree with Jake, but that's not my fun fact. I don't have a fun... I love Kristen Stewart. I'm Kristen Stewart pilled. That's my fun fact. Go to Matt.
It's unfortunate that these two Neanderthals think that a gorilla can beat a bear. I believe in bear superiority. Let's go, bears. Also, my fun facts, I lost access to my phone. You go, Sean.
That's not fun.
That we took Matt's phone. I like the torture that he's in right now.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. It's fun for us. It's not a fun fact.
It's not fun for Matt.
It's not fun.
It's not fun because my notes are in that phone, and if I don't have those, then I can't remember shit about this movie.
Well, Supergirl was in it.
Oh, no shit.
You're welcome. That's my fun fact, and my name's Sean.
Your fun fact is that Supergirl was in the movie we're talking about today?
Yeah, it's a really fun fact.
You know what? To make up for the fact that Sean has a shitty one, I almost hit two kids on bicycles today while driving home.
Okay, you're gonna have to run that one back and explain that.
Excuse me?
It wasn't my fault. They were in the middle of the street, and I was going the speed limit, and it was a 40-mile-per-hour street, and they were in the middle of it, and I didn't have room. There were cars coming towards me, so I didn't have room, really, so I kind of had to do some pro driver moves to not hit them. But they were, like, young kids, so I would have just taken them out.
All I'm hearing is you lost out on some points.
I thought that was gonna be a lot more compelling than it was.
It wasn't. It was really dramatic in the moment for me.
200 points for each kid and bike you hit and absolutely demolish.
Well, that would have been 400 right there.
For the kids, if you get both of them, and then 200 for each bike.
Oh, I would have got both of them.
I want to pivot and...
So if Supergirl were real, she would have saved them. Those kids wouldn't have been hit by Jason at all. So let's pivot into the movie that we just watched.
She'll be too busy kissing Ethan, okay?
To be clear, the kids did not get hit.
To be clear, I don't want to pivot into talking about Supergirl. I want to pivot into why exactly a gorilla beats a bear in a fight.
Oh God, no! Fuck you!
Don't. We'll be here forever.
No,
Don't do this, Jake. Don't do this. We'll be here forever.
The bear wins.
Let's just get this over with.
The bear wins.
Okay. But I want to inform the people that so over the past week or so, the four of us have been polling everybody we can come across. And it's like a 48-48 split right now on gorilla versus bear. And I just want to say real quick, if you're listening, to try to sway you to the right side, to the gorilla side. What's up, Matt?
You actually reminded me. My friend from maintenance, Don, and his wife are both bears.
You already told me about Don.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah.
Okay, then his wife.
Jason needs to ask his boss still.
I do still have to ask
And
the Holy Spirit.
But okay, the point is it's neck and neck, and the main point is that gorillas win because of arm length, athleticism, skill, agility, intelligence. Shit, it's King Kong, not King Bear. It's Planet of the Apes, not Planet of the Bears. They're gonna get on that thing's neck, they're gonna choke it out, they're gonna beat the shit out of it, bang on its head.
It's not about size and strength, it's about athleticism, smarts, and
it's not
dog.
It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog.
Exactly.
Those bear claws don't matter because they're not gonna be able to get in because the fucking length of the gorilla's arm.
And the gorilla grip. Listen.
And in this
Jordan,
scenario, it is like a neutral setting, too. I think it's important to establish. There's no home field advantage of a forest or a jungle for either animal.
We've all seen the video. Sean probably hasn't seen this, but we've all seen the video of Michael Jordan defending Allen Iverson, who's about 5'8", so about a foot shorter than Michael Jordan, and he just cooks him and gets the basket. And that's because Allen Iverson had the agility and mobility on Michael Jordan, even though Michael Jordan had the size and strength. He put him on his ass.
You know what else the answer had? He had that dog in him.
He did have that dog in him. You know who else has it? Gorillas.
I like how you guys are both talking about the speed and agility of a gorilla when a bear is faster.
A bear is fast. Oh, but there's first of all, there's speed and then there's quickness. And agility definitely goes
to the bear because the bear is faster by far.
That's not what agile means, Sean.
It's still
We're
the
not
same,
talking-
like, speed with...
No! Agility has nothing to do with speed. We're talking about mobility. Bear.
That's a different thing from agility.
But it contributes to agility.
A bear is
Depends.
a bear is marginally faster.
Marginally, that thing is much
It's
faster.
15 miles per hour.
That's a lot faster.
It's 10. It's 10 miles per hour faster, and it is significantly
Well, wait,
less
wait,
athletic.
we
It is
should-
much less. It is much less athletic than it is fast.
We should specify the specifics of which type of bear and gorilla we're
grizzly
talking
bear.
about.
Grizzly bear,
So
silverback
grizzly
gorilla.
bear, silverback gorilla.
And they're also set to like equal aggression because I've had people debate about whether or
Oh,
not,
yeah,
like,
I've had-
like bears can be in a slumber or gorillas in general are less aggressive. And I'm just like, I think for the sake of the argument, you have to have a neutral setting and a neutral like aggressive state, or else it's no fun.
They're both going at each other at the same amount
Here's
of
the
aggression.
thing. People tried to pull that on me, saying like, "Oh, well, bears are natural predators and fighters. Gorillas aren't. They're not aggressive like that." I'm like, listen. If a bear comes out a gorilla, he's fighting. Whether it's an aggressive species or not. If he's getting attacked, he'll fight. And that bothered me that people tried to throw that criticism onto my argument. Because it just doesn't make sense. I don't care about who's a natural fighter or not. If you're getting attacked by a bear, your primal instinct is coming out.
Well, before we get like lost in the sauce with this discussion, I'll plug this later at the end of the episode. But so our socials are
I thought you were gonna plug like a Google form that I have. Everybody vote, bear or gorilla.
no, I don't have one of those ready. But illiterate_pod on Twitter and Instagram, or cultureilliteratepod@gmail.com if you want to chime in, weigh in, give us your votes on gorilla versus bear. Gorilla. If you want to be right, I would appreciate that. I think we all would, especially if you vote gorilla. Without further ado, we are talking about Supergirl this week, which released July 19th, 1984, written by David Odell, directed by Jano Schwark, Szwark, Schwark.
Props for trying.
Sean. Thank you, Sean. Shot by Alan Hume, starring Helen Slater as Supergirl, Faye Dunaway as Selena, Peter O'Toole as Zoltar, Mia Farrow as Allura, and also sort of notably Mark McClure reprises his role from the Christopher Reeve Superman movies as Jimmy Olsen, as this movie is set in the same world continuity as those movies, unfortunately. Did anyone have any prior experience with this movie before we watched, or even know about it existing?
I had no idea it existed until Jake told me about it.
I had no idea it existed, or more that it probably got thrown well into the back of my mind where I didn't care or know that it existed.
Willingly forgetting?
I willingly forgot about it.
I knew of its existence, and I knew it was really, really, really bad. And I didn't know it would be this bad, tell the truth. But oh my gosh, I'm at a loss of words how to describe my feelings for this movie. Like,
That's just jumping in with his opinions.
oh my gosh. Luckily, I looked up his Rotten Tomato score like a week before, and so it gave me more time to mentally prepare for what I was going to go through.
It's never good when a movie's rocking that 9% single-digit critic score. It's only 26% audience, too, which seems remarkably high for what it is. I, notably on the other side of you guys who had barely even, if at all, known this movie existed, let alone seen it, this is my third time watching it. Now, don't get me fucked up, I don't enjoy this movie. But the first time I watched it, I was in a very bad place, and that should tell you all you need to know about why I watched it. And then, as previously stated before, I had already done this whole watch through everything once before thing, so regrettably that was a second time, and now here we are for a third and hopefully final time in my life watching Supergirl. But let's just get into the plot, unless anyone has another detour before we go.
This was the best movie. I loved it so much. I think every movie should be like this.
I'll spit in your mouth for saying that.
Watch the movie Crimes of the Future, anyone listening. Kristen Stewart is just a delight.
Yeah, Crimes of the Future is fucking sick. Not very intelligent analysis of that one. I don't.
Yeah, but we're not gonna get any better.
Well, ultimately, I think I have a lot that I could say about this movie, but if I get I mean, about Crimes of the Future, but if I get derailed and start talking about it, first of all, 2 of the 4 people in this room haven't seen it, so it's lost on them. The conversation is going to be limited to me and Jason, and I'm going to spend the entirety of the rest of the pod talking about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers you can get into about it.
It's such a rich textured movie, such a personal movie from Cronenberg, but yeah, I highly recommend that. Watch that, not this, you know? Very different movies. Weird to even be bringing up Crimes of the Future in comparison to Supergirl from 1984.
But we just watched it, and it's at the forefront of my mind. And Kristen Stewart gives a truly compelling
Oh, yeah.
performance.
Her and Viggo Mortensen, 2 of my favorite performances of the year. Cronenberg's direction, maybe my favorite of the year. One of my favorite films of 2022.
Very, very good movie. So, without further ado, this piece of fucking shit that we're about to talk. We don't have to do this, man.
No, we're locked in, bro.
We chose this.
We don't do things halfway in this house.
We're not sponsored. We don't have
Yeah, are
anyone.
you kidding me? You tell me this is episode 7 that we're recording, 8 if you count the intro episode. We're gonna be loaded with sponsors by the time this comes out. I'm about to edit in so many fucking sponsorships, bro.
Go to NordVPN.
No,
Oh my
not a sponsor, not a sponsor,
Oh
not a
shit! I
sponsor.
laughed too loud.
You always do. Seth Rogen ass.
I kept the camera. I kept on the camera. I kept the mic here, and it's still too loud.
Okay, well, so Kara Zor-El, the cousin of Kal-El / Superman, and Jor-El's niece live in Argo City, an isolated Kryptonian community that survived the planet's destruction by being transported into a pocket of transdimensional space that was not called the survival zone. Honestly, didn't get that from this movie. A man named Zoltar allows Kara to see a unique and immensely powerful item known as the Omegahedron, which he has borrowed without the knowledge of the city government, and which powers the city. However, a mishap leads to the Omegahedron being rocketed into space. By mishap, they mean Kara is distracted by a magic spinning dildo and creates a dragonfly, and this is a very accurate description. I'm not even leaving anything out, which makes a hole in the city, and they lose the power source that looks like a fushigi. So Omegahedron is rocketed into space, taking a ship. Kara furrows it to Earth, undergoing a transformation into Supergirl in the process to recover it and save the city. On Earth, the Omegahedron is recovered by Selena, a power-hungry would-be witch, assisted by the feckless Bianca, seeking to free herself from a relationship with Warlock Nigel. Whilst not knowing exactly what it is, Selena quickly realizes the Omegahedron is powerful and can give her true magic. Supergirl arrives on Earth and is granted new powers by its environment and the radiation of its sun. While seeking the Omegahedron, she creates the cover identity of Linda Lee, cousin of Clark Kent, and enrolls at an all-girls school where she befriends Lucy Lane, younger sister of Lois Lane, who happens to be studying there. Supergirl also meets and becomes enamored with Ethan, a school groundskeeper. So that's kind of the initial setup.
I didn't ever get that Nigel was a warlock.
Yeah, it's very unclear. Like, he seemed like he was just Selena's, like,
I just saw him as like
boyfriend that she hated.
Yeah,
I just thought he was like a
A bitch boy.
yeah, exactly a rich guy.
No, that's not what I said. I said bitch boy.
yeah, rich boy.
Which guy would mean warlock? Or did he say rich?
He said rich. I said bitch.
Which boy? He said bitch boy.
Which is which?
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, okay, man. I'm grasping at straws for something to talk about here. Well, right off the bat, slight positives. I do like the look of Argo City. And you do have the iconic shot of Kara with her legs spread, staring at the spinning dildo-like object, biting her lower lip. I don't know how that made it into this film, and, like, did they not notice, or did they not care? Or was that because it doesn't feel intentional,
It doesn't.
but it's very phallic.
It's honestly the most fun part of the movie because of the fact that they have the spinning wand dildo. It just made so many unintentional innuendos, and that was the most fun part of the movie.
The other thing is we're going to have to pad time here talking about the beginning of the movie, because after this beginning setup listen, because after this beginning setup, it all fucking stops. The movie just, like, the bottom, it doesn't start off strong, but it starts off in a way where you're like, 9%? This isn't that bad. And then I think the bottom just totally drops out of this thing, as we'll kind of get more into as we go. But the beginning is where if there's any sign of promise, it's when you're like, oh, well, Argo City looks kind of cool. And then we spend like 4.5 minutes there and never go back.
That's one of the things that, like, yeah, even this, like, the beginning has promise. I won't say it's good or perfect by any means, but to me it has, like, enough there to be like, it hasn't shit the bed yet. Nothing's really terrible yet. Yeah, it's a bit weird with, like, certain things, and I don't think you spend enough time in Argo to begin with, but, like, nothing's like anything you can't undo or like can't fix later on in the movie. Like you could show a little bit more of Argo later, or you could do something with like, you know, the characters that you have at Argo, because it's like you don't even see Zoltar end up in the Phantom Zone to begin with.
I think that, I mean, I do think that's not to like defend this movie too much, but I do think it's for the purposes of like the reveal.
Well, yeah,
jumping ahead.
I think it's for the reveal, yes, of that, but like it would have been more of a reason to show like them pushing towards that point of like him eventually ending up in the Phantom Zone, or maybe like showing a little bit, giving a reason. I'm trying to give it a reason for them to go back to whatchamacallit, why Argo.
I think so, and that's one of the central issues of, I think, with the movie, is when she leaves on her own. She makes the decision that she's going to be the one to go get the Omegahedron, taking their one ship, and is, you know, you hear in the dialogue that they, without it, they can only live a few days. But then she gets to Earth and seems to like just completely stop looking for the Omegahedron and like enroll in school, and like well more than a few days seem to pass. And I think it would have been interesting, but going off of what Sean said, if you like cut back to Argo and see people begin to panic at like, we don't know if we're going to survive, with the last remnants of the civilization of Krypton. And then I think with specifically what you're talking about with Zoltar getting sent to the Phantom Zone, as you see later in the movie, you can show him getting sent and it would still be a reveal to Kara. It's hard to gauge because you don't spend enough time with Zoltar and the two of them together for you to feel any like importance to that relationship.
That's why I think it would be good to kind of like, obviously the main thing that they make a point of after everything happens is Zoltar's like, well, I grabbed the power source and, you know, it got shot out, so this is kind of all my fault, so they're gonna have to send me to the Phantom Zone anyway. So it's like, that's the only reason I could really see them going back to him, because otherwise he's already there, or they're deliberating sending him there because of what he did, which would give you a little bit more of an insight into who he is, other than, like, the small amount we got.
I also, speaking of, don't even know who Zoltar is. There's no, like, I don't believe he's a family member to Kara. We know he takes the Omegahedron from the government. Does he work for the government? Is he a scientist? Is he a wizard? Because he has this wand, it seems to be magic based. Like, what is his relationship? How does he already know Kara and their parents? Why is this old man hanging out with Kara? And I really hadn't thought about that till this moment, but there is absolutely no idea of what her relationship is.
She's a really weird thing with presumably older men in this movie, and that makes me a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, that makes this funnier if he's just like some creep that's just like, yeah, look at this Omegahedron. You want to sleep in my car? Like,
got this magic wand.
Zoltar got that Ezra Miller energy.
Jason, you gotta remember, it's not a car, it's a little pod that goes out into space.
he's just like, yeah, look at my dildo, I mean magic wand.
I mean, let's just,
it's ribbed.
She was enticed by it, let's be honest.
Do you need to take a shower at my place? Like,
oh my god,
you're looking a little stinky. Man, you're looking a little stinky right now.
That's a good point. They really don't address like who the fuck this random weirdo is. It's just like it's implied that he's a scientist, I guess, but like,
yeah, it feels like Screenwriting 101 should be like the character that's supposed to be like the most important, I would say, like emotionally resonant relationship with your lead. Maybe you should establish what that relationship is, so that when ultimately, spoilers for when we jump ahead in the plot, as if anyone cares, when Zoltar sacrifices himself for her, it would actually land as like an emotional moment and not just like, there goes that old guy.
Well, that's the thing though, is that like, okay, I might be skipping around a little bit.
That's fine.
Okay. I thought that he would be like, you know, the emotional resonance for Supergirl. But then, like, they introduce Lois Lane's cousin or sister, or I forget.
It's her sister, Lucy.
Her sister, Lucy Lane. And I thought, like, okay, maybe she's like the emotional resonance for Supergirl. But then she like disappears for like third act. She has like little to no involvement,
and she doesn't spend.
in it.
In particular, when you do see her, she's not with Kara.
No.
/Linda /Supergirl.
Exactly. And so it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, that is kind of weird because she doesn't she has all these people that she sees, but I don't think she ever really connects with any of them on any level. Like, you could say, like, with Lucy that there's something, and I feel like Lucy was the strongest one of the characters to have any connection to her. But, like, there's nobody that she really, like, has as, like, right-hand person to, like, talk to, whereas, like, with the Superman movies, I felt like Lois was fairly there a good portion of the time, especially in the first one. But this, it just feels like it's all these things going on and Supergirl.
Well, the thing is that, like, they give no time for these characters to develop, chemistry at all. And so, unlike, the Fantastic Superman 2 movies, like, when these characters talk, you just don't give a shit. You just want it to end. Like, please shut up. Please let the movie continue. I don't want to hear you talk. You're not interesting. Go away.
Yeah, none of the supporting characters have any kind of arc, have any kind of relationship. And it's a shame. It's a waste. Ethan shows up, is mind washed into accidentally falling in love with Supergirl when he's supposed to fall in love with Selena, and then that's that, and that's his entire character. And we don't, like, what's Lucy? Like, I can't describe Lucy. I can't describe anyone. And I think it's a shame because, and this is a different comparison because obviously having watched the Supergirl show on the CW, it has a lot of ups and downs, but the one thing it really does get right is Kara's relationship with the people in her life and the way in which she makes them better and they make her better. And I think in general, when you look at in comparison, there's absolutely none of that there. That's a strong suit of the Supergirl character and the Superman family in general, and that's just completely absent from this movie. And I think it's a waste because I think Helen Slater looks the part. I think she doesn't get a lot to do, but when she does have something to do, she plays the part well. I think her first flight scene's particularly good, and I think the suit is a great, absolutely fantastic Supergirl costume. But there's nothing there, and she has nothing to work off of. And Supergirl is the strongest character in the movie, but it's not really saying everything because she might as well just be talking to, like, planks of wood.
Are you kidding? Ethan was the best.
Ethan, who's way too old for this girl who seems to be, like, a senior in high school at the most.
Let's continue the plot so we can talk about that really awkward kiss scene later.
Okay, yeah, good point.
That's a far ways off.
Well, real quick, I want to address the fact that she got her human name Linda Lee. She got the name because she looked at a fucking article that said General Robert E. Lee.
So now Supergirl has gotten her name from a Confederate general.
She's like, I must be a real stand-up guy. Let me take that.
Let me take that name.
and then she pulls. But they also do, like, I feel it's like such a like a comedy trope to have the, like, coming up with a fake name by the two things in the room, and she does that with the Lee, and then just pulls Linda out of her ass out of nowhere, and it's like,
that's kind of nice though.
If you what
because it's you always it's a subversion of expectations. You expect her to look at something and get the Linda, but no. She's
quick on her feet with that one.
She just, she doesn't understand any other aspect of Earth culture, like knocking on doors, but she knows
the name Linda,
an American English name.
So Ethan also catches the eye of Selena, who drugs him with a love potion, completely diverging from her original plans for world domination into just wanting to be with this man, to make him fall in love with the first person he sees for a day. Ethan then regains consciousness in Selena's absence and wanders out into the streets, and angry Selena uses her newfound powers to animate a construction vehicle in order to retrieve Ethan, causing chaos as it does so. Supergirl, in the guise of Linda, rescues Ethan, and he falls in love with her instead. Supergirl and Selena then proceed to battle, with Selena capturing Ethan and trapping Supergirl, sending her to the Phantom Zone. This is kind of cutting out a lot of the middle, but also the middle is a lot of nothing. Of, like, Ethan being in love with Supergirl and her being totally fine with it.
Yeah, I realize we sped through, like, so much so fast.
Because there's nothing there. Like, we talked about, like, you get the setup, and then there's a third act. The middle act is just, like, it's a 2-hour movie, and the middle, like, there's, like, a first half hour, a last half hour, and a middle hour of just nothingness.
You can't ignore the cat fight between Supergirl and Selena fighting over Ethan.
Yeah, my bad. That was so thrilling. So yeah, they proceed to battle. Sulina captures Ethan, traps Supergirl, and sends her to the Phantom Zone, which she somehow knows about. A prison dimension, now powerless, Supergirl wanders the bleak landscape, eventually encountering Zoltar, who has exiled himself to the Phantom Zone as a punishment for losing the Omegahedron. Zoltar, again, something that would have been interesting to see him go through that journey of exiling himself.
Yeah, that, like, if he did it himself, that would have been such an interesting thing to see him, like, deal with the guilt of knowing, like, he blames himself for essentially killing the people of Krypton again. So it's like that is a little bit that would have been a cool thing. That is a little bit fucked up to be like, I have to live with the guilt of having killed so many people.
It's also absolutely, yeah, that there's like a huge character arc there that they just decided to not engage in. Also of note in terms of Selena somehow knowing about the Phantom Zone, and there's possibly a reference to Zod in there. Zoltar makes reference to his like evil neighbors over the mountain, which could just be any Kryptonian criminal sent to the Phantom Zone, but I don't know, maybe I'm just, I grew up in the day of age where everything's a reference, so like my brain's corrupted by that. But I think of note is the fact that Supergirl seems to know about Superman, somehow seems to know that his identity is Clark Kent, makes no attempt to reach him. And now I understand for like a lot of practical reasons you just don't have Christopher Reeve in the movie, but it still feels like a glaring thing where they try to make his presence as a figure of Superman so felt, and they establish how well she knows about him as being Superman, but then also never goes to interact with Superman, and Superman never tries to stop Selena. And it's like it's almost like you need to make it right. If you're gonna write in all these Superman references and name drops, you need to do something about the inherent question of, well, why isn't she going to, why, in addition to taking so much time to find the Omegahedron, even though they supposedly only have a few days, is she not going to him for help, introducing herself, saying, hi, I'm your cousin? Or why is he not showing up to stop this witch that's trying to take over the world? Why?
That would have made so much more sense if, like, instead of her immediately trying to acclimate to life on Earth by going to a school, her going to Clark and being like, hey, so I'm your cousin, I'm alive. What the fuck is Earth?
And I think you could I could so easily buy that she's not aware of him because she's only been on Earth for a little bit of time, and why would they? Why would Argo know? But if you're going to write in that everybody in Argo City knows of Superman, why you then have to, you have written that into the script, and now you have to deal with the ramifications of what does that mean for why is this remnant of Krypton not trying to contact him? And even if you want to say, okay, it's hard for them to get there, well, she's on Earth now, why is she not? And it's just, maybe you shouldn't have put that in your movie then.
Also, if, like, they know that Superman's there and they know of Superman, presumably that means some of them have ended up on Earth, or somebody...
Yeah, how do they know?
How do they know?
Well, they'll know that he's Clark Kent.
Like, that's just... That is the weirdest part of it, is that they do know that he is Clark Kent and that's Superman, and that, like, I could understand them being like, oh, like somebody having gone to Earth at one point or another and being like, oh, Superman, that's one of us. That's Kal-El, not like, oh yeah, that's Clark Kent. We know who Clark Kent is.
Yeah, I think you could write in, like, I don't know, my best explanation, and again, some of this somewhat doesn't matter to an extent. You could write in, like, that they know from Jor-El sending the ship or whatever, but again, the Clark Kent thing then, and ultimately, it's not that, like, the illogic of some of it matters, but I do think you have a situation where if you make the conscious decision to write in them knowing of Superman, you need to address that with Kara's actions, or don't include that so that they're kind of having they want to shoehorn in these references, even though the fact is that they just couldn't get Christopher Reeves to appear in the movie, most likely for budgetary reasons, or he just didn't want to because he was like, I don't need that mess.
I also want to talk about the whole, like, I kind of wish in this movie they didn't focus on, like, the relationship aspects of it. Like, there shouldn't have been romance in this movie. Really feels like that's one of the things that should have been cut out too.
Of the many, many things that could have been removed, that's definitely up there. This is the first women-led superhero movie, or comic book superhero movie, that we're talking about, or at least from Marvel and DC. I don't know if there's some other weird pulp one from earlier. And it comes down to Selena and Supergirl catfighting over a dude, and the supervillain's plans for world domination get sidetracked because she has a crush.
And, like, it's also like, it has nothing to do, like, this guy has absolutely no importance. He was just the guy the way that Selena saw clipping trees while his shirt was off.
And then he meets Supergirl, and he's like, "I love you," and she was like, "All right, shit, I guess
I
love you
have
too."
to love you too.
Like, there was no development of them actually building a relationship.
They have like 2 scenes together.
They had like 2 scenes together, and she was like, "Well, shit."
I gotta kiss you.
Here's what you guys don't understand, right? What these are women, right? And
Oh my
because
god.
of that, they just want to be with the guy. They just want to kiss, right? They love kissing, right?
You know, prior to Matt saying that, it didn't sound like he was actually sarcastic, and I was like, excuse me?
No, that sounded unironic.
Yeah, for a minute I was like, can somebody mute Matt's mic?
It's like, can we get...
and I was like, we are erasing this.
This part of the podcast is getting cut
I
out.
will walk away from the podcast if we
I'm
don't
too
take
tired
this
to
out.
make a sarcastic tone, but it was sarcastic.
Well, yeah, ultimately, women have, of any movie we've watched so far, women have treated by far the cheapest and with the least amount of agency in this movie than any other one we've watched. Ironic, given that this is the one with the woman lead, with a woman villain. But, like, you compare this to how, like, and I'm not saying they're perfect or flawless, but you compare this to how Lois is handled in the Donner Superman movies, how, Catwoman is in Batman 66, Lois and Superman and the Mole Men even, or fuck that, even like as shit as they are, I still think like Annette O'Toole's Lana Lang, which is not good, is handled better than this, or Alice Cable and Swamp Thing is handled better than this, where it's just like these powerful women just get completely deterred because they see an average looking white man cutting a tree.
Yeah, it's like, they both get, like, switched off from their goals, and it's such a weird, like, tangent to have, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
We're talking about a movie where the man gets mind controlled with a love potion and still has more agency and power in his actions, because he eventually comes to and makes the conscious decision of like loving Linda still and helping her, and he also puts it together on his own that she's Supergirl, and that's so much more than they get to do in their own movie. Baffling. So Zoltar helps Kara to escape, sacrificing his life to do so, as we previously mentioned, in what should be a really powerful scene, but due to the just complete lack of development of Zoltar in that relationship.
And the graphical limitations.
Yeah, just awful. The effects aren't bad in the whole movie. They just kind of, again,
There are certain points.
the third act looks a lot cheaper than the rest of the movie.
Well, there's that. I'd say, like, there are only some parts where it just looks glaringly bad, and other times it looks great. It just really depends on the scene.
It makes me wonder if there was any kind of, and I don't know this, if it feels like the type of thing where there's like production shifts where it's like, they said a $35 million budget, which is not cheap at all. It's only $4 million less than Superman 3 was. So for like a spin-off, I mean, that's a pretty solid budget. And there's a decent portion where she's just like being a schoolgirl and you don't really need budget. But it makes me wonder if like they put a lot into something and they thought maybe they had more money coming, or if things got slashed, or how, like, what happened there, or if they accidentally overspent, like they weren't careful with the budget. I don't know. Because, like you said, there's certain parts where, like, it looks pretty solid, and then there's certain parts where it is, like, embarrassingly bad.
I feel like a lot of it must have been spent on sets, because the set for Argo looks great. The set for, like, the Phantom Zone looks pretty cool.
The amusement park that Selena's in isn't bad either.
Yeah, that one's not bad. I'm trying to think of anything else where the sets are, like, genuinely interesting. Like, as much as I think the ending looks terrible, the weird fucking Satan monster probably looked great when it wasn't muddled by so many effects and so many weird things going on screen.
Well, they also spent a lot of money, like, you know, like destroying a lot of stuff, like when the lawn monster gobbled up Ethan, you know, it's like just that kind of destroying this town. Like it did.
The castle. The
exactly.
castle looked neat.
It didn't feel expensive, but like they crushed cars, they destroyed buildings. That's not cheap, but like it's just the way they shot it and like just the context of it. It just had no impact whatsoever.
The editing was
just
egregious at times too.
Yeah, there's a couple weird smash cuts in there. There's also some good parts of, like, I like a lot of the Supergirl changing, like Linda changing. Those are really good shots. And are like pretty smoothly edited to like look really consistent, like it's all one shot. But then there's also like random smash cuts where like, oh, we're in a different place, like the one with there's a shot of Selena's holding a party and Nigel holds out a mirror at one point, and it cuts to her looking in the reflection of her in her mirror, but it seems like it's all of a sudden in a dream sequence, but it's just the mirror, and it because of the way
it was also
shit.
it was also really hard to tell at that point that it was even looking in a mirror, because I was like, I can't see the edges of the mirror. It just looks like another shot, but set from like a different point. Looking at
and like
her.
Matt said, the music cues off.
Oh, okay. And if we're going to talk about the editing, like, it's not even just like, like some scenes in the middle of the film. It's like spread across the movie. It's at the beginning of the movie. Like, for example, Supergirl was in the pod, right? And all of a sudden she's in... Oh, okay. All of a sudden she's in the Supergirl costume, and that's confusing enough. All of a sudden the pod opens. She flies out. She flies out of the water. You're just thinking to yourself, when did she get in the water?
Oh yeah, there was that where it was like you get to see the ball land,
you don't get to see it.
Well, you get to see the Omegahedron thing land, but then you don't get to see her ship land in the water. You just have to assume that
you just cut to her flying out.
You have to assume that she landed with the ball, and then she just flies out of the water.
Oh, and we didn't touch about this because we all fucking hate this movie. But as soon as she gets out, right, after the scene of how they're talking about like, oh my god, we have a few days before we all die, right? And these are Supergirl's parents speaking, right? So this should have significance on, her hurrying the fuck up and finding this stupid toy. She instead, when she gets out of the pod, just goes around. She's just curious about her surroundings. She picks up a rock. She's like, ooh, a rock. And then she sees a flower. She's like, ooh, a flower. She sniffs the flower. She realizes, oh, I can fly. And she starts flying for like the whole fucking day, right? And they only have so much time. Argo only has so much time, yet she just flies around. And all of a sudden, like, what was it? I think like her bracelet goes off and she's like stuck in this like, what was it? The Lover's Lane? What is that? What it's called?
The scene where the two truckers attempt to grope her.
Well, it's not actually called Lover's Lane. They're just being
they're just being really creepy.
Oh yeah, so there's these two rapey guys. She doesn't. This is supposed to be like a kick-ass scene, right? But like, it was really boring. Like one guy tried to approach her. She like blows him away. Not in that way.
I think only you were thinking that, Matt. I think you just kind of buried yourself on that one.
Well, never mind then. I apologize. And then the other guy, right? He saw that she blew the guy away, and pulls out a knife like that's going to do fucking anything. And so she laser visions the knife, and he just thinks it's like a game of hard to get. So I'm just thinking, what the fuck is this guy's problem? Is he just that fucking horny? And then
Matt, welcome to man.
Welcome to man.
And then like she kicks him, but it's like there's like no impact. And then when he lands on the floor, he like floats down. So I'm like, what is this? They should be in pain right now. And yeah, and then when she flies away, he just talks about how he shouldn't talk about this tomorrow.
So yeah, so back to we're so close to getting through this plot. So finishing up the second last paragraph, Zoltar hopes Kara escapes, sacrifices himself. Back on Earth, Selena uses the Omegahedron to make herself Princess of Earth with Ethan as her lover and consort. And you know what else we didn't really talk about? Mark McClure coming back as Jimmy Olsen in what's really pointless like extended cameo. It really seems like it's like we want somebody from the Reeves movies in this, and who can we get? Oh, we can get Jimmy, and he sort of we can't get Superman or Lois, so we can get Jimmy, and we'll say he's dating Lucy, which is just another weird age thing because it seems like Selena's much older than Ethan, who's much older than Linda / Supergirl, and then Jimmy seems much older than Lucy. Kara in general looks older than most of the girls at the boarding school. They seem to be kind of all over the place, and I don't know if that's just like, again, like a product of like it's 1984, so some of that's less important, just casting limitations, or just a sheer lack of caring.
Well, and then there's that old pervert from Argo.
Oh yeah, and then the old pervert from Argo, Zoltar.
They got a weird amount of age dynamics in this movie.
They reconvene in the Phantom Zone, and he's like, "Oh, it's great to see you. Since we're both gonna die here, do you want to touch me?"
So, Kind of wrapping up the plot here, emerging from the Phantom Zone through a mirror because reasons. Supergirl regains her powers, and when I say reasons, like I'm not even being like offhand. Like there's really little to no explanation given for her getting out. Supergirl regains her powers and confronts Selena, who uses the Omegahedron to summon a gigantic shadow demon. The demon is on the verge of defeating Supergirl when she hears Zoltar's voice urging her to fight on. Supergirl breaks free, and Nigel tells her the only way to defeat Selena is to turn the demon against her. Supergirl complies and creates a focused whirlwind that traps Selena, who is then attacked and incapacitated by the demon as the whirlwind pulls in Bianca as well. This whole sequence has some of the worst effects I've ever seen, with the shadow demon stretching out Kara, but its hands are actually like behind her, and she's just getting like poorly warped, like if you'd like pulled the corner of something in Microsoft Word and like the dimensions are all fucked up. That's what it looks like, but it's Supergirl. And then when she creates this whirlwind, she does it by forming a tornado by flying really fast, but she seems to shrink. This movie doesn't really have an idea of how perspective works and like depth of field and like depth perception in general.
Do you know what it kind of reminds me of?
What?
Do you know like the meme of like a picture of a girl holding like covering both of her ears, being followed by a guy playing a trumpet, and then
no,
you don't.
I know exactly.
I know what he's talking about.
Basically, right? So how this meme works is that they play a song, and then they stretch the image of the guy playing the trumpet to the rhythm of the song as if he was playing it, and it just becomes like a whole ass orchestra, and that's what it reminded me of. Like I just taking a PNG of Supergirl, just stretching that out, trying to simulate, her actually being stretched. I wish you knew what I was talking about.
I just Googled it, and I haven't seen the meme in action with the stretching, but I appreciate the vivid imagery, and I'm sure it is very accurate to what's seen in the film. I have no doubt in my mind about that, honestly. Honestly, what you are saying may be giving too much credit to the movie, is my guess. So, where was I?
Who gives a shit, man?
Yeah, it doesn't. No, fucking things just happen in this movie.
That's the problem. Things didn't happen in this movie.
No, but like when they did, they just did. You know what I mean? There wasn't like a sequence of events. It was just like this happened, time passed, this happened.
How do we know time passed? I only saw like two night
That's
times.
true.
I think we said this about Superman 3 as well, but there's really no indication of how much time has passed. Again, we get that timer of a few days for Argo City, but it seems like she goes through several days worth of like, getting assimilated into the school. Everyone starts knowing her. Like, it seems like it's been weeks to me.
They imply that there's a time limit to bring about tension, but then don't address that tension.
But then she comes to Earth and she just like fucks around for like a long time.
So the three are stuck through the mirror portal, which promptly reforms, trapping them all forever in the Phantom Zone. Free from Selena's spell, Ethan admits his love for Linda, knowing she and Supergirl are one and the same. He also understands she must save Argo City, and then he may not see her again. The final scene shows Kara returning the Omegahedron to a darkened Argo City, which then lights up in another case of poor editing, where we see her go into the ocean, and now she's suddenly at Argo City again. I don't know if there's like a portal in the ocean or what, but it wasn't even clear that it was Argo City because we haven't seen the outside of it before, until like the lights come on, and you're like, oh, I guess that's the city?
I hope we never see Ethan again.
Well, we won't.
Well, I know that's the positive of this, but I hope we never do.
I hope we never see any of these characters again.
Well, let me tell you how I would fix this movie.
I'd love to know.
No, listen, and I'm not saying like I'm not a fucking screenwriter. I obviously couldn't write. I'm sure if I tried to write a script for it may even be worse than this. But I just think structurally, you cut out so much of the middle. You cut out anything with Ethan. Ethan's not in the movie. You make Selene she just wants world domination. None of that's there. You can cut out anything with the school, including Nigel. You just have Evil Witch finds Omegahedron. You spend more time in the beginning in Argo to actually establish relationships there, establish stakes. What's her deal with her parents? What's her deal with Zoltar? Kara doesn't really have a character arc here. It seems like it should be a coming of age, finding yourself self-discovery movie, but that doesn't really happen. She's kind of the same person at the end as she is in the beginning, just kind of like happy and a little naive. Why not start off with establishing that maybe she's young and irresponsible, and she even makes the young and irresponsible decision to steal the ship and be the one to go after the Megahedron instead of somebody else with more experience. But you spend more time on Argo City. You get there, she immediately starts looking. There's this time crunch, there's this pressure. We cut back and forth to Argo, see what's happening there, see citizens panicking, see Zoltar beating up on himself for being somewhat responsible for this mistake that could doom them all. And you, maybe midway through the movie is when you get this initial encounter with Selena and she gets sent to the Phantom Zone. You spend more time in the Phantom Zone. You get, maybe see other people living there, what effect that has on people. You get the Zoltar interaction at this point because you've spent more time with him and with the two of them in the beginning and actually feel something. He sacrifices himself to get out, and then you have the final conflict. I think in general this movie could be shorter by cutting out so much of the middle but then lengthening some of the beginning and end points, particularly Argo City stuff, Phantom Zone stuff, and then actually including her search for the Omegahedron, and not just she fucks around for a while and then her wristband goes off and she finds it. And I'm not saying like I could write a full script of this. I don't have any experience with that. I'm not good at that. I'm not a writer, but I just think there's just basic structure things that if you're watching the movie, if you have like common sense, you can be like, you can see how to rearrange it to make it an actual story, because this thing just does nowhere for most of it. And like I said, like the bottom just drops off and then it wraps up with really bad effects, and it just keeps, it bums you out, honestly.
I feel like in regards to like her fucking off after she comes to Earth, like I think it could have been good to have a scene where she like was, you know, fascinated by a new planet or this or that, but it's just the fact that like she shows up to Earth and then it's like she immediately has no urgency to do what she came for. She seems happy and joyous as if she's not there to like
save dying
all of her family and anyone else in Argo. Like I think it could have been cool if she like started and then there were like scenes here and there going along where she like was fascinated with things or whatever, but it's just like she was immediately just taken away by Earth and just didn't give a fuck about the reason she was there.
You can keep like the first flight scene. I think that's genuinely like one of the more memorable, like well done scenes, but that's brief, and that without dealing with her then just being like, I'm gonna enroll in school and steal someone's backpack.
Right.
And I think jumping ahead to a movie we're going to cover way in the future, you look at Wonder Woman, in the Wonder Woman movie, when she leaves Themyscira, there's plenty of moments of wonderment from her in observing Earth culture, while she still has a sense of urgency of we have to find areas, we have to stop this war. And whereas this, it's just, there isn't really moments of wonderment with Kara, with Linda, with whatever you want to call her. She just does like Earth, but you don't really see like moments of why. She just decides she likes school, and then she has these friends, but she never actually bonds with them or bonds with Ethan. So they don't even do that well, and then also there's zero sense of urgency as we've beat to death at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like I agree with the changes that you had mentioned, Jake, because like it just, I see so much potential, especially in like the beginning parts where it's like there's so much. I feel like I don't have anything wrong with like any of the casting, you know, outside of like everybody on Earth, really. Like Kara's fine, Zoltar's fine. If anything, I do actually like who played Selena and her friend it started.
Her friend was kind of fun.
Who started with a B? I forget her name.
Sorry.
Well, no.
Faye Dunaway played Selena. Let me look up who played Bianca.
Yeah, Bianca was the name. Okay, that's what I was trying to think of. But yeah, like they were actually fairly funny, and I liked them both together, and they had a lot of chemistry and were pretty charming when they were on screen. But like anything from like Nigel to Ethan to Lucy to Jimmy I don't even care about Jimmy.
Bianca is played by Brenda Vaccaro. So shout out her.
Like yeah, they were all like those two were fun to see, and it's like everybody else I could just throw away into a bucket and not care about because they just don't matter. So it's just like I could see a lot of these things, a lot of these ideas being thrown out where it's just like it seems like a lot of these should have been left on a cutting room floor rather than like put into the movie. It really seems like they went with what they wrote first and kind of just
Yeah, it feels like a first
and
draft
just
for sure.
went with it. Because like there are parts of it where I'm like, I would have liked this idea if it had to do with something else. Like I like the idea of Kara getting used to Earth by entering into a school and like learning through school how to interact with humans because she's never been to Earth. I think that's an interesting concept. I don't think it was an interesting concept for this movie, and I also don't think they did it well, but it's an interesting concept all the same. For like a first encounter kind of situation for her learning Earth culture and everything like that, or specifically I should say American culture, I guess, in this instance, given, you know, but like just seeing there are parts of it where I'm like, the sum of the parts of this movie together are terrible, but I can see the parts in there having promise, and a lot of them, while none of them really come together into anything special, I think there are some like parts in here, if done well, could have been really special and really sweet or just really cool. But none of them reach that potential at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We're coming up on an hour. I don't want to drag this one out because I feel like it's plenty clear where we all stand on this thing. For me, it's clearly, to me, clearly the worst thing about it is the structuring of the story. There's just such gaps of nothingness, and like we're spending all the wrong amounts of time in the wrong places, and as a result, it leads to such awful pacing, and awful poor characters. I think those things are written poorly outside of the story structure, but it doesn't do them any favors. So that's my biggest issue. The one shining light is I do think Helen Slater's a solid Supergirl. She doesn't have a ton to do, but like she's the only thing that has much charisma for the most part. I think, although like I said, the Bianca Selena relationship's kind of fun, but it's, to me, I'm mostly spending the time frustrated with why Selena just is interested in this dude. So to me, the best part of it is Helen Slater, and also that great Supergirl costume, like absolutely perfect costume. No way in hell am I recommending this. Do not watch it, let alone watch it. Do not watch it 3 times. What about you guys?
I think Helen Slater was probably the best part. I think she was very well cast. And played the part well. The worst part was just, I feel like, just the lack of like a plot or like a storyline or character arcs or agency to the lead roles, or just that generally. Just the lack of like anything interesting.
No focus.
Like, it's just all void of anything that I care about. So I would not recommend it. In short, I would not recommend it at all.
So what I liked, I think some of the lines from Bianca were pretty nice, and I did like the chemistry between Selena and Bianca. What I didn't like, everything. Fucking everything was awful. Pacing was awful. Story was awful. Dog shit characters. Dog shit characters.
The way he's saying it is so disrespectful, because he's not even like worked up about it. He's just like, yeah, it's just bad.
Matt's like just dropped 100 on him and then walked away like it was nothing.
And while like you two are bickering about potential, I can see how it's still fucking dog shit. Like, what the fuck you guys talking about? This is the worst fucking shit I ever fucking seen. Like, what potential? It's dog crap. What is this? I sat through it and I'm like, oh my fucking god, this is torture. What is this?
I'm so glad Matt just said that, because literally,
oh my god,
off mic,
audio, okay, I don't give a shit. Oh my god!
Dude, fuck my story.
Fuck your story, dude.
Oh my god!
I think Matt's dying a little bit.
I'm broken. Oh my god, I'm broken.
No, but I'm so
I think Swamp Thing to Superman 3 to this back to back broke Matt.
Matt's gonna have such a terrible time with the next couple of movies. I think we killed Matt.
I may have to like shorten this laughing segment because first of all, the audio is gonna be so terrible. It's worse than usual, and it's gonna be so many minutes of just Matt cracking up.
I'm so glad he said that though, because literally
Oh my god. Okay, that's my thoughts.
off mic before we started recording, you guys said that you saw potential, and I was like, "Bitch, where?" It's like
I hate this movie.
I did not see shit.
I hate this movie. I don't want you guys to think that I think it's some diamond in the
No, I
rough.
know,
Like,
but there
it's
was
fucking
no like
bad.
sparkle in the dog shit. Like
It doesn't change what we see on screen, which is like torture. It's so bad. I'm crying.
Well, let's have Sean give us our final thoughts so we can mercifully stop talking about Supergirl and hopefully never talk about it
All right,
again.
so this is my favorite movie. It's the best movie. You all suck ass. I'm lying. I was only lying about the suck ass part. This movie is fantastic. I think my best part I would agree is Helen Slater. There's not really like I can't give it anything good other than that, honestly. Like the worst part, I'm gonna give it to the editing. Holy fucking shit. How do you fuck up scenes that bad to the point where it doesn't make sense what I'm looking at? How do you make it that bad? How do you have situations where the way you transition between a scene makes it so I don't understand what's going on? There are so many moments where that happens, and it's not like once or twice. This is multiple times during a movie, which leads me to believe that you either were trying to go for like cool transition scenes, or you were trying to like, or you're like new editors and really don't understand exactly what you're trying to go for. So like you're trying to find the best way to transition from X to Y, and it just doesn't work out. Because you have like so many weird sections, like at the end where it's like, I mean, this is one of the ones that I just remember because of the last one we just saw, where like Supergirl flies into the ocean and just fucking ends up flying through space, presumably flying into the ocean from what I would assume is her getting back in the ship to get back to Argo, because that's where it landed. But it just shows her then after she flies into the water that she's in space flying towards Argo until she eventually reaches it and the lights turn on in Argo City, and it's like, obviously you don't know that it's Argo City or where you are. I originally thought that she was flying underwater.
You know, what if she's just turning the lights on and they're all fucking corpses?
Everyone's dead. I didn't make it in time because I spent too much time at school.
Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah, terrible movie. Don't recommend it.
All right. Well, so on that note, thank you to Illiterate for our artwork. He puts out much better art than This Is a Movie. AYELOWREN on Twitter. Thank you to Jason for our music. Plug your shit.
I make music. It's fine, I guess. Listen.
Better than this.
Listen. Yeah, I don't know.
You got to give yourself that, buddy.
I don't know. I'm not very talented, but if you want to fucking listen to it, it exists on SoundCloud. The Upsides PA on Instagram, the _Upsides PA on Twitter. That's my shit.
All right. You can follow me on Letterboxd at JakeWalter98. Eventually, as we get further in, I'm going to have a public list of my rankings for these things, and I do know way in the future when we kind of like catch up to reality, we should go over them, or we should check in at some point throughout. But anyway, that's my Letterboxd. If you're interested in continuing to check us out, you can follow us, as mentioned previously, at illiterate_pod on both Twitter and Instagram. You can reach us at culturalliteratepod@gmail.com. Please leave a review, send us comments. You know, whatever you feel like doing. Don't be a dick. You can be critical. We suck, but just don't be a dick. All episodes will be on YouTube as well on the Culturally Illiterate podcast channel. We're still doing bi-weekly episodes. You can catch us in 2 weeks for our first Marvel movie, Howard the Duck. So,
that's next.
Yeah, Howard the Duck's next.
Hell yeah. I want Quest for Peace.
So, well, that's coming up too. Well, thank you for listening, and we will talk with you again in 2 weeks.